والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، يقول المولى جل وعلا: يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأوفوا بعهدي أوف بعهدكم وإياي فارهبون. The story of the Israelites and Bani Israel is in reference, or the relationship is established with Israel alayhi salam, which is Prophet Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in many places in the Quran, particularly in Surah Al-Baqarah, tells us about prior nations of revelations, of divine revelations, and how they've acted and how the sunan and the rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had come to apply to them. So here the story of the Israelites: Ya Bani Israel, اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم. Mention and remember the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon you. Now the Mufassirin have different opinions as to what is this ni'mah. Some of them said, as mentioned at the tongue of Musa alayhi salam, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى يَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ جعل فيكم أنبياء. Mention the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has made from among you prophets and messengers, and has sent so many prophets and messengers to you. وَجَعَلَكُمْ مُلُوكًا, and has made among you also kings. وَآتَاكُمْ مَا لَمْ يُؤْتِ أَحَدًا مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ, and He has given you that which He has not given anyone from among the people. Now the interpretation of the last part of this ayah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in your time, in your span of receiving prophets and messengers, that which He has not given any other nation. However, the issue of at-tafdeel will come to inshallah in the next session, next Sunday Eve inshallah, after Salat al-Maghrib, and this will designate a special halaqah for, because we're going to speak about it extensively inshallah. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأوفوا بعهدي أوف بعهدكم وإياي فارهبون. And fulfill your covenants to me, and I shall fulfill my covenant to you. And the covenants that the Israelites have given to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if another revelation comes, that they shall accept it, they shall apply it, believe in it and apply it. And if another messenger comes, which they used to look forward to the coming of the prophet, the sealed prophet that is, and when the sealed prophet came, they rejected him because he did not come from among them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding them of the covenant that they have given to Him. And then He says, Ufi bi'ahdikum, if you fulfill yours, I will fulfill mine. And the covenant that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them, that He will forgive their sins, overlook their shortcomings, enter them into paradise, and grant them twice the ajr, twice the reward. That is out of belief in their revelation and their respective prophets, and out of belief of the sealed prophet. وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, and only me you shall fear. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them the incentive by reminding them of the ni'am, the bounties that He's bestowed upon them. And also on the other hand, He's reminding them of the very tough rules and standards that He held them up to. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for them that they'd be at a loss in the desert of Sinai for 40 years. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed upon them that their sins will be written on their front doors when they commit a sin. And the forgiveness, how to attain forgiveness, is written also beneath that sin. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed many of them, and He turned them into monkeys and pigs. And some may wonder, how come we don't see any monkeys and pigs among us, or from the Israelites? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ما جعل الله لمسخ من نسل, that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses a people and turns them into animals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow them to have offsprings, to have young ones. وَآمِنُوا بِمَا أَنزَلْتُ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَكُمْ وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ, and believe in that which I have revealed, meaning that the Quran. مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَكُمْ, confirming and affirming that which you have between your hands from the Torah. وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ, and do not be among those who are the first to disbelieve in it. And it here goes back to either the Quran or the Prophet ﷺ. But the two are closely connected, the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ himself. Because believing in the Quran necessitates believing in the Prophet ﷺ. And believing in the Prophet ﷺ necessitates the belief in the Quran itself. Disbelieving in one or the other would necessitate disbelief in the other one as well. وَآمِنُوا بِمَا أَنزَلْتُ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَكُمْ وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ وَلَا تَشْتَرُوا بِآيَاتِي ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا وَإِيَّايَ فَاتَّقُونَ. And do not buy very cheap price with my ayat. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other ayat in the Quran, فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ فَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا كَتَبَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا يَكْسِبُونَ. Woe to those who write the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their own hands. And then they say this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threatens in two different ways. The first of which, woe to them for that which they have written with their own hands. And the second of which, woe to them for that which they have earned as a cheap price for altering the revelations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever price that they've received, even if it's the entire dunya, and that's all, and that which is all in it, it is a very cheap price in comparison to the hereafter, because it's a perishable price, it's a commodity that is destined to destruction. وَإِيَّايَ فَاتَّقُونَ. I'm sure you have heard many definitions for the taqwa, but a very simple one, الْعَمَلُ بِطَاعَةِ اللَّهِ, to do the acts of obedience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do, للحصول على رحمة الله أو للوصول إلى رحمة الله, for one to reach the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, على نور من الله, upon guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no one can say I'm doing righteous deeds, I'm obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon ignorance. That's why it is a must, for us to learn the interpretation of the Quran, the interpretation of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acts of obedience and acts of prohibitions. Do the acts of obedience and stay away from the acts of prohibitions. So that's why the condition is على نور من الله, upon guiding light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then to refrain from acts of disobedience, fearing the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, على نور من الله. Stay away from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made prohibited, fearing His punishment. Not simply because one feels I'm good, or I am righteous, or I am this, or I'm strong. No. Fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He commands us to fear Him in the Quran, عَلَى نُورٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Again, not to make anything prohibited upon us, unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it prohibited upon us. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And do not confuse the issues. Do not confuse the truth with falsehood. Do not mention part of the truth and not the rest of it. Do not say things that are true and mix them up with that which is a lie. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ. And you conceal the truth, وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And you know. You know what? You know what the truth is and you conceal it. And you know what falsehood is and you manifest it, you present it. And you know the consequences of such actions. And you also know the consequences of such actions. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. And establish your salah. Establish your salah, meaning that join the Muslims, join the believers who accepted the message of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Establish the salah with its pillars, with its obligatory acts, with its sunan. وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Purify yourselves and purify your wealth. وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. And prostrate yourself. Bow down and prostrate with those who bow down and prostrate. And in it, from this ayah, from this part of this ayah, the scholars derive the fact that it is obligatory. They use this as an evidence that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory upon us to pray the 5 daily prayers in a jama'ah. This is the evidence, or part of the evidence, that those who said that all of the 5 daily prayers are obligatory to be performed upon men in a jama'ah in the masjid. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. Then we come to a very critical and a very serious issue. And this is a warning, not specifically for the Israelites, but it's rather for all nations that have received divine revelations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this warning is mentioned for us also in the Quran. So al-ibra, one is to take heed, to take the wisdom, bi'umum al-lafz, by way of the general message and the general advice and words of wisdom in the Quran, in the ayat, not because it was revealed in a certain people. In other words, it's not just specific to these people. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. One oftentimes busy themselves with enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. And oftentimes they forget about themselves. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. You command people to do al-birr. Al-birr means جماع الخير. All acts of goodness, all acts of obedience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have commanded us to attain. وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. And you forget about yourselves. And in this there is tremendous wa'id, threat from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. We mentioned the ayat first, then we mentioned the hadith. And there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَ تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you who believe, why do you say that? Why do you enjoin the good and command people to do birr and goodness, and you do not do it yourselves? كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Indeed, this is a matter of tremendous proportions in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that one would command or would say that which they do not do. In the hadith we learn that when the Prophet ﷺ was taken on a journey by night, Laylat al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, he saw people that the angels of punishment are taking them by instruments that are made out of the hellfire that grabs their lips and it pulls them so hard, it burns them. So the Prophet ﷺ said, who are they? Who are these people? He was told that these are the khutaba. Pay close attention to this. These are the khutaba among your ummah. Those are those who take the minbar. And those are those who conduct the halaqas. And those are those who give the lectures and teach people in classrooms and so on and so forth and in the masajid. And they do not do what they teach. In other words, they command people to do certain things and they do the opposite. They command people to stay away from acts of prohibitions and they attain them. Similarly, it was mentioned in the hadith that those who engage in such behavior, on Judgment Day, they are thrown into the hellfire with their insides in the middle, and they are circulating in the hellfire around their insides. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And then the people of Jannah, the people of paradise, would look at them and they would say, were you not the ones who used to command us to do the birr, the khayr, the goodness? And they would say, yes. He said, because of what you told us, we are in paradise now. What have landed you in the hellfire? Imagine this. You tell people the right thing to do, and that will result in them entering paradise. And then one would forget about themselves, and as a result, they would enter the hellfire. And similarly, the people of the hellfire would say, were you not the ones who used to prohibit us from attaining the munkar? And used to command us to do goodness? What have landed you here among us? And of course, it's the same answer, وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. A man came to Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he said, I am ready to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. He said, have you learned 3 ayat in the Quran? And if the answer to that is yes, then you are ready. The first of which is the one we mentioned. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. He said, are you engaged in such behavior? He said, no. He said, I'm not ready to fully comply with this ayah just yet. In other words, that's not what I'm doing. Not that he's not accepting, but that's not exactly what I'm doing. The second one is the one we just mentioned. يَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. And the third one is the words of Shu'ayb alayhi salatu wassalam, where he says, وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن أُخَالِفَكُمْ إِلَى مَا أَنْهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ. And I do not want, by enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, do the opposite of what I'm enjoining and do the opposite of what I'm prohibiting. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So the man answered, he said, no, I'm not quite ready for that yet. He said, then you're not ready to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. اسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ. Any act of righteousness, any act of goodness, any prohibition that we've been commanded to stay away from requires sabr. And sabr comes in 3 different types. Sabrun ala ta'a is that one would persevere upon the ta'a. Coming to the masjid 5 times a day, praying 5 times a day, reciting the Quran, staying away from the haram, lowering your gaze, just attaining all that which is mentioned in the Quran. That requires a lot of diligence, a lot of perseverance. Similarly, staying away from, sabrun ala an ma'siyah, staying away from committing sins. That requires tremendous amount of patience. وَصَبْرٌ عَلَى قَضَاء وَقَدَرٍ. The tribulations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed upon us in terms of loss of loved ones, loss of wealth, loss of certain bounties, loss of that which we love, loss of some health, being ill, so on and so forth. That requires tremendous amount of patience. وَصَبْرٌ عَلَى قَضَاءٍ وَقَدَرٍ. That which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed upon us, which the nafs does not like, is not eager to like, or is not this, predisposed or destined to like. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. A second element that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to use as a way of persevering upon the straight path is as-salah. As-salah. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. The salah is something of tremendous proportions. Praying 5 times a day, driving back and forth or walking back and forth to the masjid, or establishing the salah within your family when you're not able to make it to the masjid, and telling the children, okay, it's time to get ready for salah, it's time to make your wudu, it's time to... And this process could take 20-30 minutes sometimes with small children. So imagine, you have to do this like several times a day. And similarly, doing qiyam al-layl. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed this is something of tremendous proportions, except for those who achieve khushu'. Just like the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did. The Prophet ﷺ used to achieve khushu' in his salah and use it as a way to persevere upon the calamities and the tribulations that he had undergone during the course of 23 years. And he used to tell Bilal what? أَرِحْنَا بِهَا يَا Bilal. Meaning that in it we are consoled in this salah. In it we are establishing the link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this salah we recite the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this salah we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this salah we enjoy making sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this salah indeed is the comfort of the heart, and it was the qurrah of the ayn of the Prophet ﷺ, that which has consoled and comforted his eye. That والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم. أقول قولي هذا واستغفروه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His divine names and beautiful attributes to make us among those who enjoy the good and pursue it, and who forbid the evil and stay away from it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who listen to the best of words of wisdom and follow it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cause us to live as Muslims and to die as believers. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.